Hello and welcome to Consciously Awesome here on Soulivity TV. I'm Sheila Applegate, your host, and I am passionate about helping you discover your brilliance and create the life that you desire. I've spent my time doing that as a meditation teacher and author and parent. And today's a really fun day for me. It is my birthday, so I have spent a lot of the day receiving messages from people all over the world wishing me blessings and happy birthday. And that just feels really awesome to be basking in that friendship with people from all around the world. And now it gets even better because I get to talk with another beautiful soul who has inspired me. And I believe has the same passion I do to help you discover your brilliance. So we're welcoming today Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., who is a Nagual, a Toltec Master of Transformation. Miguel is a direct descendant of the Toltecs of the Eagle Knight lineage and the son of Don Miguel Ruiz, author of the New York Times bestselling book, The Four Agreements. Miguel himself is an author of 5 books, and his latest, which is really good, is The 7 Secrets of Healthy, Happy Relationships. And along with his family, he teaches workshops, he offers transformational journeys around the world. He lives what he speaks about. He dedicates that in his life, in all areas of his life. And one of the things I also love about him is he's so passionate about his children and his family, his wife, his relationships, because that has been my passion as well. So welcome, Miguel. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sheila. Happy birthday to you.
Well, that's just awesome. Thank you.
Enjoy everything in life.
I do. And you know what? It's snowing here today on top of
Yay!
it. Yay!
That's
It
awesome.
actually is pretty, but 70 is also nice.
Oh, snow is beautiful. I thoroughly enjoy shoveling snow. For me, it's such a peaceful thing. Yeah, it takes me about 2 hours because I shovel my driveway and then my mom's driveway, which is right next door. So I'm out there
You
for
have
about
that
an
whole thing.
hour. But it's so peaceful. The silence is just nice.
That
So,
is true. I agree with that, especially at night. Have you shoveled at night? Like, that's the ultimate.
oh yeah, it is. It is. Although I have to put on the little things that I put on over my shoes so that I don't slip, because of the ice. So I just
I
put those
got those this
on.
year. Yeah, those are awesome. I
Yeah.
just got a pair this year for the first time so I could hike all winter.
Yeah, and it really helps, especially when you're shoveling, because it takes a while to get that style for shoveling because you can easily hurt your knee. So, but once you
Yeah.
figure out that system and be able to like shovel around, it's very peaceful. It's one of my favorite meditations.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm glad it snowed today so we could talk
Yeah,
about it
yeah,
because, people kind of don't, a lot of times, snow gets a bad rap, but I think it's
yeah.
pretty amazing.
Although I
It's
have
so
to just
good.
put a caveat there, it's not so peaceful when I slack off a little bit and the powder turns into slush or ice, and then it becomes a little, it's something.
That is not fun. It's also not
It's
very
just,
peaceful when there's like 10 inches or 12 inches.
yeah. That's the one thing snow has taught me, that if you wait to shovel the snow, you're not really helping yourself. You wake up first in the morning and shovel it because that's actually the best time to do it. Sometimes it's at night when you can do it when it's just recently snowing. But if you wait just a little bit and let the sun take care of some of it, you may you may have to deal with some.
You might regret it. Yes.
It'll turn into more of a workout
There
than.
you go. You got to decide what you want. What is the level of workout today? That's awesome. Oh, all right. So we're just going to have so much fun today. But let's start for anyone maybe listening. I don't know who's out there that doesn't know about you and your dad and the 4 agreements and all the Toltec teachings, but I know there's some. So let's start with just a little bit about your background and what what you represent.
Well, I am a descendant of the Eagle Knight lineage, according to my family, according to my great great grandfather, Don Ezequiel Macias, who lived his majority of his life in the 1800s. He lived, according to legend, he lived to be 116 years of age. He is that, you can say, because we remember his name, he's the source of all the stories and all the legends. He was the shaman that shared within a small group of people that oral tradition. And if you ever see a picture of him, he looks like that image of the old shaman with the big hat with the beard. If you see that Milagro Pinfield wore, he looks like that. His son Don Leonardo Macias, who was born in 1883, soldier and a musician, he continued that tradition in his own unique way. He rebelled against the tradition by becoming a soldier, but he was a musician, and eventually he found the way to teach the Toltec tradition through music and discipline of being a soldier. And his daughter, my grandmother, Mare Sarita, she continued the tradition, and she rebelled against the tradition in her own unique way. But one day she had an aha moment that basically made her shift her life, and she went to Don Leonardo and Don Ezequiel, and she began her journey in trying to figure out how to practice the tradition, and she did it through faith healing. So you have the Don Ezequiel and Don Leonardo, who taught it to a general, very few people, very narrow, just within the family and a few other people just outside. But it was just this small group of people that continued it. My grandmother, because she was so grateful that it helped her in her life, because she lost a son, and around that time she had a big medical issue, and she went through faith healing, and it helped her so much that she decided, with generosity and gratitude, to share the tradition. And she's the one that eventually opened up a small temple in Barrio Logan in San Diego and shared it with the community, not just with the family, but with the whole community. So when people say that I'm walking in my father's footsteps, I have to correct them. It's actually my grandmother. She's the one who decided to break the taboo and teach the tradition outside the family into a community. And so much so that in 2007, she was inducted into the San Diego Women's Hall of Fame for keeping the tradition alive and sharing it with the community. And you can say that she is the main spiritual figure in our family. She is that source of faith and love and compassion. And her son, Don Miguel Ruiz, who also rebelled against the tradition, he became a general doctor, a practitioner, and then he also had an aha moment that made him shift, and he went to Don Leonardo and Madre Sarita and continued his apprenticeship with the Toltec tradition. And him being a medical doctor and having the faith in Toltec tradition, he decided to clean the Toltec tradition, take out a lot of the superstition, and leave what he called common sense. And that is what we know as the Four Agreements. Or you can say the Four Agreements is the result of the work he did to cleanse the Toltec tradition from a lot of the fanaticism and, a lot of the fables that distorted it, the superstition. And just put it in a language that it can resonate with everyone. And that's the success. That's what you can say. That is the secret to my father's success with the Four Agreements going all around the world, because it's written in a language we can all relate to. And that's where I come in. During that journey of his, of cleansing the Toltec tradition, mind you, the word Toltec means artist. If I translate the phrase, the Toltec art of transformation, into 100% English, it means the artist path of transformation. I'm an artist, and the canvas for my work of art is my life. And the instruments I'm going to use to create that work of art is going to be this body, this mind, my will, my yes and my no, my intent. And with every choice, I can create the most perfect nightmare or the most harmonious dream. And imagine that work of art continuously changing and morphing with every choice I make and every consequence I experience. So my apprenticeship comes at that point, because I had as a teacher Madre Sarita, who was my teacher for 10 years during my apprenticeship, from the age of 14 to the age of 24 when I graduated college. Actually, I graduated when I was 23. But when I was 24, my father amped up my apprenticeship with him, he basically took over the apprenticeship and really began to push and push. And that's from the consequences of those experiences that my father set up. I learned a lot. You can say that life taught me through the consequences and the willingness to see it. So my grandmother used to say this thing to us: if you practice the Toltec tradition the way your father or I practice it, you're killing the tradition, because each generation will teach it in their own unique way. In fact, that's the reason why I started with Don Leonardo, Don Ezequiel, Don Leonardo, Maria Sarita, Don Miguel Ruiz, and me and Jose. This is 5 generations that all 5 of us applied it differently, in different ways, from the storyteller trickster to the soldier orchestra leader to the faith healer to the medical doctor shaman Nagual, and me and Jose. You know, they can say at the moment we're the modern Naguals until the next generation comes in and they become the modern Nagual, and they'll practice it and teach it in their own unique way. Whether that's my children or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is how we put it into practice in our own life, because life is the main teacher for all of us. Because like my grandma says, if you practice it the way I do, or your grandma or your father does, what she's basically saying, if we repeat it verbatim like a parrot, then we're just passing the information. But if we apply it in life and learn from the consequences, then life became our teacher, and the way we teach will reflect those lessons, grounded, of course, in the stories of all these generations. So for me, the particular Toltec lineage that I follow represents family, which is huge for me, of course.
Right.
But it is the application of, first learning the situation. It becomes theoretical, but once you make it practical, it just opens up all these channels. And for me, the way I've used it is to help me heal from the wounds that conditional love left in my life. Allowing me to heal the relationship within myself has allowed me to heal the relationship with all the people in my life. For me, I don't really care about astral projections and clairvoyance and all that kind of stuff. I've learned that, of course, but it's not as important as the relationships that I can create and enjoy and heal and be a part of.
Nice.
And that's what I represent.
Yeah, you answered like a bunch of my questions right there. We must have been talking ahead of time.
Well, great question. Like, what do you represent, Miguel?
Right, do it all. Well, I want to say, I think was it your great grandfather or great great grandfather may have been around right before, because I almost got on saying I think the coyote medicine was here, the trickster was here, because I was having all kinds of issues. So hello to him, and yeah. And then moving down through the generations. That's just I love what you like. This is why I wanted to talk to you, because there's so much beauty in it, and that is the key too, right? To me, the things is passing on to the next generation. I always feel like my kids should go further than me, should go past my comfort zone. If I'm doing my job right, there should reach a point, unless I keep evolving, which would also be good, but that they push past to a place where I don't know if I belong, or I don't know if that's my space, and I'm happy to let it over to them to take it on. And then also that practical, if it's not about, there's so much emphasis sometimes, like you said, of, astral projection or leaving the body, trying to disconnect and go into spirit. We have forever to do that when we're not on earth, right? Like we only have now to do this. So I love what you were talking about with the relationships. And
my grandmother, during my apprenticeship, she always told me this, that if you don't work on yourself, then when you do those meditations, those ceremonies, you're bringing whatever poison you have for yourself onto that space, and it'll impact it. But if you do all the work to cleanse yourself, then when you do those things, you're not bringing in all that, that blinds you, that limits you, that brings, because it might amplify it. You never know. Right. So my grandmother just had this incredible form of discipline, which, if you look back on my family, it comes from Don Leonardo, the discipline. of being able to remember to apply effort every day into something. And you can say that during those 10 years of apprenticeship, my grandmother taught me discipline in her own unique way.
What is that discipline for you? That was good. Now, what does that look like for you when you're applying that and taking it to another step?
Okay. I'm going to set it up with something a teacher once taught me. A teacher in Mount Shasta once shared with me this a piece. I forgot her name, but she was channeling an angel at the time, and this angel said something pretty profound. The key to enlightenment is effort. That's it.
Mm.
That's the key to enlightenment, effort. Effort is basically using the energy that animates this body, that animates this mind to manifest something. It's taking a step forward. You can call it intent if it resonates better with you, or act, or simple, or energy, applied energy. But that's what effort is. Taking a step, saying a word, taking a book and reading it, putting pen to paper in action, be willing to take those steps towards learning how to run 1 mile, and eventually you'll be able to run a full marathon, maybe even an ultra marathon. But little by little, if you apply that discipline, you get better and better and better. So discipline from that point of view is remembering to apply that effort every day. That's it. Forget about the drill sergeant, that image we have of discipline that someone tried to teach us when we were young or whatnot. It is just simply remembering that every day is a choice. And that's what my grandmother always says. The faith in you is in being able to take that step. Very simple. A very small gesture shows you how powerful you are.
Right.
Success is simply following through on that effort, following through in that discipline. So you can say, what motivates you? Are you being motivated by an elusive carrot that you're going to chase and eventually becomes an obsession trying to chase this carrot? This is what conditional love does. I love you if you live up to my expectation, here's the carrot, which is my acceptance of you.
Right.
But if you begin to accept yourself, which is healing the wounds of conditional love left in your heart, and seeing that I am point A every moment of my life. And that point A means I can go in any direction in life. When I say I'm the infinite possibility, it means that at this very moment, I'm the youngest I will ever be because I'm alive at this very moment. And I know I'm the youngest I will ever be because if you take a picture of me right now and you show me that picture in a couple of years, I'm going to say, look at how young I was. And I know that because I'm saying that about pictures someone took of me a year ago or even 10 years ago. And I say, look at how young I was. Look at the way I look.
Right.
Well, I'm the youngest I will ever be. And the reason why I'm the infinite possibility is because at this very moment, I am alive. And I can think of all these possibilities that I can go in. And if I like one of them, I can say yes to that one. So in order to reach that possibility, that goal simply becomes a focal point of my effort. I want to experience life coming from this point to that point. It almost doesn't matter the goal. The goal is just the excuse to do what I want to do in life.
And that brings joy.
Exactly.
Does it feel at times like, because like you said, it's just action, but sometimes people think of discipline, and you made a reference to that, as something difficult to do, something that there's like a taskmaster behind you trying to get you to do. So let's go inside Miguel and your head and your visualization, and what is that difference of feeling for you? Is it that joy that, okay, I'm making this choice because I want to make this choice? Is it, you talked about it's the unconditional love, it's not conditioning, but let's go into your head and hear some of the thoughts, the way you navigate that, how you take that step, and what you do to navigate that.
Sure. Well, first, you have in a moment of clarity, which is see how I've done it before, how I do it now. For example, the temptation to say, oh, let's use running, for example. The temptation to say, I can only be a runner if I qualify for Boston. If I don't qualify for Boston, then I'm a jogger. And there are actually people out there in the jogging and the running community that, in order to diss the other person or make someone feel inferior, they call them a jogger. You're not a runner, you're a jogger. In that moment, we're corrupting running as this a goal that only a certain group of people can do it, and anyone who doesn't achieve this goal, well, they're not really runners, are they? In my life, I started running after I had an injury. I have this sciatic nerve issue that one day I was sitting in a pretzel and both legs fell asleep, and when I stood up, both legs felt like they were just sticks, and I just crumbled to the floor and severely twisted both ankles. And before that, I used to play. My exercise was playing soccer, but after this exercise, this injury, I could no longer play soccer because I didn't have the side mobility that I used to have, at least the ability, either from the injury or the sciatic nerve type of thing. Anyways, I learned how to walk again. I had to learn to go through physical therapy. And then one day my friends and I decided, my neighbors invited me to go for a run. And I went for a run with them, and I was barely able to run 2 miles. The 2 miles, it was the most difficult thing to do. It was like the image of myself of running. Mind you, it was probably the first time I went for a run in my early 30s, after the injury. And I couldn't, it was almost difficult. So little by little, I wanted to run. So what I did is I created a playlist on my little device here. And the method was walk one song, run one song. Walk one song, run one song. And that's the cycle. That's the interval. Little by little, I was able to walk one song, run 2 songs, walk one song, run 2 songs. And little by little, that interval kept going until it became 3, 4, 5. And one day, I was able to run a whole hour without stopping. And on that day, I crossed a threshold my mind said I couldn't cross, which is run 5 miles. It was the first time in my life. Prior to that, 3 miles was long, tough. Whenever I hear someone say, "Oh, I went to run a 5K," wow, that's impressive. So on that day, when I crossed the threshold of 5 miles, the best question in my life, actually, the best moment, and the best question came in mind. One, I crossed a threshold my mind said I couldn't cross, which means I proved my self-doubt wrong.
Right.
I can do it, and I did it. Then the best question came. What else can I do? And the answer was life-changing. Anything. Because I knew I can do it. In fact, it's my grandmother's lesson. Like coming straight forward. I can do it.
Nice.
It's not about self-doubt. It's because now I know I can prove myself wrong. I can prove that self-doubt wrong. And from there, since this is a day in 2012, 2013, I ran a Tough Mudder race with my friends. I covered 10 miles. I walk and ran. But since then, I've ran 25 half marathons. I've ran 6 full marathons, which is basically 26 miles, 42 kilometers. And now I see a 5K as a base run. In fact, sometimes I see it as a short run. When did that happen? when did 3 miles become a short run for me? Like a basic. Sometimes I 3 miles. Man, I should do 4 or 5. That just seems like I'm not putting any effort. I'm just starting. And the reason why I say that is because what I've discovered in running, especially the long runs, like a 10 mile or 13, sometimes even 20, I've done those during training, is that somewhere around mile 5 or 4, and as time progressed, it got shorter. But the first times was around mile 4 or 5. I can feel the moment where my mind shut up. It went silent. It no longer was trying to hook my attention, It was a moment where I can only feel my body, my breath, witness the environment because I'm paying attention for cars and the side and the sidewalk and the little curve on the edge of the sidewalk in the corner. Those, if you don't pay attention to those can just ruin your day. So you pay attention, but the mind is silent. And for a good 5-6 miles is the most beautiful form of meditation. And then the voice comes back in my mind, the thoughts. But it comes back as a coach, not a drill sergeant, a coach. Okay, Miguel, you've got 2 more miles. Okay, Miguel, you got 1 more mile. Miguel, you can do this. You got this. And it comes in as my ally.
Right.
So in that moment, what drove me to do it? Well, here's the thing. My fastest marathon is 5 hours. Definitely quite shy of qualifying for Boston, which my dear friend Brian, qualified for. Now, if I domesticated myself and say I'm going to use that image, like I can only accept myself as a runner if I qualify for Boston, then I'm always comparing myself to the success and achievements of my friend and just not even enjoying what I'm able to do, not even enjoying that I was able to go from my first marathon was 5 hours and 57 minutes. The second one was a little over 6 hours because I got injured in the run, but I finished it. This time I almost, and just a little over 5 miles, like 5 hours. That's a whole hour I cut off. That's impressive. But had I completely been attached to my domestication, I would have said it's such a waste of time. But luckily I let go of that domestication. I let go and I began to see myself as I am. This is my truth. Today, on that particular Sunday, my best was 5 hours. Wow. And then when I look at my friend Brian from that place of healing within me, I don't see a comparison. I don't see jealousy. I see inspiration. Wow. Look at what his effort has allowed him to create. And what motivated him? He really wants to run Boston and have that experience. But for him, and I was just talking to him a couple of days ago. He was saying, all that matters to me, whether I run Boston or not, is that I know I did it. I qualified for it. For him, that was like an incredible amount of confidence. And now he has to recover all kind of things. But that's what discipline looks like to me. It's just the instrument that allows me to create the life I want to experience.
Perfect. I love that. And it sets us up perfectly. We're going to go for a quick break because everyone can digest that and get a little break here with a little commercial that's going to share some beautiful things. And then we're going to go on. We'll jump right off of that to the domestication, the unconditional love, and who's directing that body, right? Yeah. So awesome. All right. We'll be back, everyone, in just a minute.
Soulivity Magazine and Beyond Words Publishing is pleased to announce its latest charitable partner, the National Women's History Museum.
I've never done
Please
that.
join us in supporting this amazing
Question
organization.
from the audience. What is that?
Don't tell me I can't sit where I want.
Don't tell me I can't be an inventor. Don't tell
I was
me
actually
I
that
can't
was
be
on
a
my
soldier.
mind to ask.
Don't tell
Like
me
kind
I
of
can't
like
be a movie star.
what
I'm
you're
Anna
thinking
Mae
of.
Wong. I am Rosa Parks. I refuse to give up my bus seat to a white person.
I am Tabitha Babbitt. I invented the circular saw.
Don't tell me I can't fly.
Don't tell me I can't be an explorer. I am Sacagawea.
Don't tell me I can't be a
No,
scientist.
thank you. That's my
I'm
papa
Gertie
who did it.
Teresa Corey. I won a Nobel Prize in Physiology.
Maximilian
I'm
is a
Deborah
friend of
Sampson.
mine. She
Don't
was
tell
on
me I
Sensei,
can't open my
the
own
TV
business.
show Sensei.
I'm Estee Lauder. I started a
I
global
already mentioned
empire
that.
that now has $7 billion in annual sales.
I disguised myself as a man to fight in the Revolutionary War.
Don't tell me I can't be a spy.
Don't tell me I can't be a journalist.
I am Mary Elizabeth Bowser.
I'm Amelia Earhart.
I starred in over 40 films from the silent era to the talkies.
I am Hovita Idar. I was an editor, a publisher, and I even founded my own newspaper.
During the Civil War, I was a maid for the Confederate president. He thought I was illiterate, but I actually had a photographic memory.
I was shot twice in my first battle and removed the bullets myself.
These are just some of the women who have changed history. Don't let them be forgotten.
Become a member and support the National Women's History Museum.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Please join us in supporting the National History Women's Museum. You can find out more information by going to soulivity.com/support women's history.
Hello, welcome back. We're here with Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., and we're talking about his practice of the Toltec religion and how he's moved it forward with his own understandings and perspectives. And we are just getting back to a discussion about domestication. So, Miguel, share with everyone what you mean by domestication.
Sure. Well, the main problem that my father's book, The Four Agreements, deals with, and every single book in the family, is domestication in different facets and different formats, whether it be relationships with yourself or love. Domestication is a system of reward and punishment by which we model the behavior of an individual, where if we live up to an expectation, we're worthy of a reward. And if we fall short of that expectation, we're worthy of the punishment. Now, since we are emotional beings who experience the full spectrum of our emotions, that reward that we feel, that we experience when we live up to the expectation, feels like acceptance, which feels like love. And the punishment for when we don't live up to that expectation, it feels like rejection or the lack thereof of love. Otherwise, we've learned conditional love in this way. That's the result. Conditional love is the result of domestication, or you may want to call it conditioning. Some people don't like the word domestication applied to the cells because only animals are able to domesticate, and we humans do not. We are conditioned. At that moment, we just created a hierarchy. I'm not an animal, whatever, but the system is the same, whether it's conditioning or domestication. I love you if you live up to my expectation. For example, let's take myself as an example. Hello, my name is Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. I don't take things personal. I don't make assumptions. I wait. Always do my best. Yes, there he is. But oh no, how can I call myself Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. but don't know the Four Agreements? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so good. All those years, and there's the diatribe of punishment, judging myself for not living up to the expectation of the perfect version of myself, the perfect version of Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., who doesn't take things personal, doesn't make assumptions, is always impeccable with his words, thank you very much, and always does his best. If I live up to the Four Agreements, then I'm worthy of love. But if I fall short again, I'm forgetting the fifth agreement, be skeptical but learn to listen. Oh no, I'm all over again, punishing myself. It's like the equivalent of me saying, in order to be worthy of love, I have to be the perfect version of myself. To be 27 years old, weigh 170 pounds, and if you ever see my brother's hair, to have hair like his, long and flowing. But I look at myself in the mirror, and that's just not the truth. I weigh 190 pounds. I'm 45 years old, and this is the truth of my hair. But when I look at myself in the mirror and I don't live up to that image of perfection, then I'm going to start judging myself. That's the punishment I get. That's the instrument, that spur. You fat, you old fat, you old full, old bald. Whenever you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel that diatribe of judgment, what you're hearing is the images that by which you domesticate yourself. And in this case, with the Four Agreements, I'm using it as an instrument of domestication, trying to live up to this image of Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. The telltale sign that you use the Four Agreements as an instrument of domestication is judging yourself for not being impeccable with the word, judging yourself for making an assumption, judging yourself for the rest of it. At that moment, we are not practicing the Four Agreements because we're so used to domestication. We're corrupting it and turning it into the four conditions of our personal freedom. And that's the telltale sign of how we corrupt the Toltec tradition, or in this case, the 4 agreements. The same way we corrupt Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Jesus, Buddha, Siddhartha, Muhammad, psychology, psychiatry, Alcoholics Anonymous, art, music, fashion.
Yeah.
We corrupt all these beautiful things. Yoga. I practice Hatha yoga. Well, I practice Kundalini and mine is better. Well, I practice the one that's trademarked.
That's the best.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the one that we say my version is better than yours. And the reason why mine is better is because if I'm right, I'm worthy of the reward. And if I'm wrong, I'm worthy of the punishment. And we're domesticating each other continuously. Because here's the thing. I can't give what I do not have. If I have conditional love for myself, then I've got nothing but conditional love to give. For example, here's my wife. My wife, imagine her sitting right here. She was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. Honey, you are Mrs. Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. now. Here's the 4 agreements. Read it. Honey, how embarrassing. You're taking things personally. You didn't read the book. Oh, honey, you're making assumptions. I only hang out with people who are impeccable with their own word. At that moment, I'm punishing her for those agreements. That's what we do when we judge someone. Whenever we judge someone, we're punishing them for agreements they never made, but we're forcing them to make the agreement through the judgment. And that's what domestication is. Just as we domesticate ourselves, we domesticate others, because I'm only sharing with her what I do for myself. And that's what domestication is. I domesticate myself with the image of my identity. What is to be a man? What is to be a woman? What is to be this? What is to be that? You know, I post something on Facebook or Instagram and people agree with it or disagree with it. And when they disagree with it, I thought you're a fake person. You're not a spiritual person. You should be more impeccable with the word. And at that moment, they're punishing me because I don't have the same agreements or conditions they have. To me, I can take that personally or not. But the thing is, after all this work, I can tell the difference between the 4 agreements and the 4 conditions. The difference between I want to and I have to. And you can see that in our lives, between the 4 agreements and the 4 conditions, then we can see how we corrupt everything else, from music to yoga to the things we love in life. You know, for example, when we were kids, we were domesticated, yes, by parents and society, but then we won't go to school and we're surrounded by other kids who were domesticated. If you live up to my expectation, you're cool, man. And if you're cool, your reward is popularity. But if you fall short of that expectation, you're not a cool, you're a square, you're a nerd, you're a geek. And not only will you not be popular, we're going to ostracize you until you get hip with it, man. And then we create this separation. But because we like being part of a community, we like being part of a group with acceptance. When a group rejects us, well, we begin to reject them. Forget you, jock. Forget you, cheerleader. I'm going to hang out with the goth kids. That's what I did. I listened to the Depeche Mode, the Cure, and the Smiths. But even then, this group also has domestication. If you listen to country music, if you listen to hip hop or Bob Marley, you're not a real goth. You're a poser. You're a wannabe. You're a sellout. And there's domestication all over again. And that happens with every single subsequent group. What is to be a hippie? What to listen to Grateful Dead or Fish? Or if you listen to Metallica or you listen to Winger or whatnot. It's all these things that we corrupt this sense of hierarchy, and then becomes relationships. I love you if you live up to the image of Prince Charming. Well, I love you if you live up to the image of the feminine. And there he goes again. So that's the main problem that we face with the 4 agreements and all the books. And the reason why I love to teach the 4 agreements and the 4 conditions is because one day I discovered that I was practicing the 4 conditions. People used to ask me, which one of the 4 agreements is the hardest one for you to practice? And I used to answer, being impeccable with the word or taking things personal. It was always one or the other. Then eventually I discovered the reason why it was so difficult. I was pretending to be a man, a person, an individual who was impeccable with his word and didn't take things personal, I was pretending to be something I am not. And that is the core of that domestication. But a moment of clarity can change that. The moment we see the result, and just like in those alcoholic groups or drug addict groups where they say the name and hello, my name is so and so, and I'm an alcoholic. That moment of truth will be this: hello, my name is Miguel Ruiz Jr. And I do take things personal. I do make assumptions. Sometimes I'm not impeccable with the word. Sometimes I'm not skeptical at all. I buy a hook, line, and sinker. And sometimes I don't do my best. Just ask my wife. She is my witness. It is the moment where I stop pretending to be something I am not, and I accept myself just the way I am. And then I become aware of the difference. An agreement is the action of saying yes to something. I say yes to being impeccable with the word, just as much as I want to say yes to having compassion and respect. Unconditional love is a choice. Conditional love makes you think that you don't have a choice, because if you go the opposite direction, you're not worthy of love. But I'll be honest with you, I love myself just as much if I take things personal if I don't. I'm free to say yes to taking it personal, and I'm free to say yes to not taking it personal. That's what personal freedom is. And with that awareness, I'm free to say yes to not taking things personal, because I don't want to experience the hangover that comes from taking things personally. And there's a choice.
And it's a choice that you keep making, right? Yeah. You keep making it every time a situation comes up, but you just more and more side to the.
And the example I use for the marathon training is the same I use for learning how to not take things personal. Practice or discipline.
Right.
And this, remember, is just every day making the choice to use the effort to follow through.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for doing that. And it, I really do honor and respect that, because it's difficult for everyone to do that, because we are conditioned. Mm-hmm. Is it difficult? It is discipline to do that. I will be correcting my impeccable words. but when you're out in the forefront, you're seen by people. You created a life situation where you got to try that out even more, because there's so many people checking in and deciding if you're good enough at the 4 agreements, right? Because you're out there, and sometimes it's easy to fall into, like you said you did for a minute. Like I think we all do. Like you start out wanting to teach this, knowing it's in your heart, and then you want to live up to it because now people are listening and you don't want to let them down. And then to catch
that becomes a trap.
Right.
The domestication.
Exactly. And that cycles right out into the whole process. And then that energy gets put into the teachings if you don't catch it. So catching that is so essential.
Yeah, because I'm here's the thing. You do all this work to take off the mask that I've used to impose and subjugate myself. And little by little, I take off this mask, and a mask called identity. An identity is a beautiful thing when we use it as a symbol to represent and honor our tradition, our ancestry, our preferences. But that identity can become the instrument or the model by which we domesticate ourselves. In my case, the temptation to domesticate myself with Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. I take off the mask of myself. And you can say that when I discovered the 4 conditions, I discovered how I domesticated myself with Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. And I began to take off the mask and get to know who I am through the experience of being me. Unconditional love is the willingness to accept the whole of who I am. Conditional love only sees what it wants to see. Unconditional love is the willingness to see life as is, which is to see myself as I am.
Right.
So I take things personal, I make assumptions, and all that good rest. One of my favorite things is especially when I start giving a class and workshop, the very first thing I do is destroy the image of Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. as much as I can. And the reason why is because when I do that and share how I can domesticate myself with that image, maybe someone will be able to see themselves in that situation as well. It resonates. I tell a lot of jokes when I do classes, and the reason why we laugh is because we see ourselves in that joke, and it resonates, and the guard goes down, and we can see it.
Right.
But I can say that the same temptation I have, that my mother projects a mask onto me. Because here's the thing: even though I take off the mask, people will still project onto me, and my temptation is to believe that projection. Control folly is knowing that I have the awareness that I can choose or not to let those images to control who I am. And I say no. It's like the image of Siddhartha when Mara shoots the arrows at him because he sees that Siddhartha has resisted the temptation of his 3 daughters and he wants to destroy Siddhartha. He sends the arrows, and Siddhartha doesn't give those arrows permission to hurt him, so he turns them into roses. I can choose whether or not I allow those projections to impose their will upon me. One of my favorite quotes, and along the same lines, comes from Eleanor Roosevelt. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. To paraphrase, no one can make me feel inferior without my consent.
Right.
To paraphrase again, no one can domesticate me without my consent. How do I give consent? By believing it, by saying yes to it. So I have all these images that are projected onto me, the expectations, their prejudices, their ideas of what's supposed to be. And when they realize that I don't have the same prejudices they have, that I don't have the same perception, they'll try to impose upon me all this domestication. But all I see is the images about how they domesticate themselves. But my temptation is to believe that projection. But it's just a story.
Right.
Just like the image I put on myself, that mask, that identity, is just a story. To know myself is to experience the full being that is me. I take things personal, and I also have the ability to not take things personal. It's the choice, and that's my life. So I can say something. I am responsible for the integrity and clarity of what I say, but I am not responsible for what you hear. And the reason why is because you will see life as unique as you are. You can see it as life as is, or you'll see it through the filters of your domesticated point of view or your domesticated beliefs.
Nice.
Otherwise, I don't have control. Just in the same way I don't have control of how my mom sees me. In her eyes, I am and will always be Miguelito. My daughter sees me as Papa, and my wife sees me as husband. And I can domesticate myself with those images that they project or not. My mom got mad at me a year or 2 years ago now for washing the dishes and doing the laundry, because it's not the image of what a man's supposed to be from her point of view. My son doing laundry and dishes, unacceptable. And when I was young, I would not contest it. But as I've begun to unlearn a lot of my domesticated beliefs, all I have to say is, no, thank you, Mom. That's okay. In this house, it's all hands on deck. If we see it needs to be done, we do it. It's just the culture that my wife and I created together, which is how she projects it, how she and I relate, my wife and I. My daughter, one day, I came home, the first time I cut my hair really short. I don't shave it, but I keep it really short because that's the way I like it. And the first time she saw me, she said, no, Papa, no, never again, no. I didn't live up to the image of what Papa looks like. She's a rookie in comparison to my mom or my wife in domestication. But here's the thing. The 3 women in my life whom I love very much, my temptation is to believe the image they project onto me. And when I believe it is the moment I let that image domesticate me. And I put on a mask again in the shape of this agreed upon image. And then I see that in my life, that's what the original mask was. Pure projections that I believed.
When you see yourself What do you see? And I know that probably changes in the
Oh,
moment.
it changes because I'm not the same person I was when I was 28 or 30 or 35 or 40. I keep changing. I'm not even the same person I was this week. I keep evolving. So what I see in the mirror when I look at myself is the truth of who I am. This is me. But that's not how I know myself. The way I know myself is the experience of what it feels like to be in this body, the feeling that it feels when I go for a run, when I go kickboxing, when I'm talking to my daughter and listening to, when I'm engaging my son and listening to him talk, or like enjoying. The other day, he was really upset. And I said, Miguel, you can make some popcorn if you want. Okay. So he goes and does his popcorn. That's one of the things he likes to do. Then all of a sudden he comes over with a little bowl. This is for you. And he made me popcorn. My son made food for me. And my autistic son made food for me. And I'm like, thank you for your generosity. It was a beautiful moment, you know? And
I can feel it in you.
I enjoy that, you know, because in order for me to see him not as the autistic boy, but as Miguel Alejandro, the boy who does his very best with what he has to experience, you know. It's not me who has autism, it's him. But I'm there to help him as much as I can. And when he shines his heart through, you know, that same day he got so upset he broke a wall. Later that day, he made me food. That's what life is. We have our ups and downs. Everyone we engage, we're not isolated in a hill. We live amongst people who are in different stages and levels of awareness or levels of attachment. That's what it feels like, being the only sober person in a place where everyone else is drunk. And the reason I use that analogy is that the reason why we're in the party is that everyone you know is there. Imagine standing in front of someone who, two people, one person has been nursing that drink for hours, but only sips once in a while, which means they're barely, if at all, intoxicated. And next to that person is someone who's opened the third or fourth bottle of wine. They've blacked out, but they're still functioning. And everyone in the party is somewhere between the two. And with every drink people have, their awareness goes down or goes up. But, you know, the sobriety. But in that party, you have a choice. Are you going to give in to the temptation of having a glass of wine or whatever, or are you going to stay in your discipline? And which means staying in your awareness.
Right.
I will say things, I will engage things, and I'm responsible for the consequences of what I say or post. But I'm not responsible for how you see it. So from that point of view, the mastery of self for me is the moment I accept myself just the way I am.
Love it. Beautiful.
And stop pretending to be something I'm not.
Yeah.
For the sake of someone else's point of view or judgment.
Right. In every moment. Well, you're doing a great, you know, to put something on you, conditional. I think you're doing a great job with it.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're reflecting it. It's beautiful. The time is going so quick, and we're near the end, actually. But we did have one of the viewers ask if you have any insight from your tradition or your experience of what you're feeling for the world right now as we've been moving through this transition time.
Yeah, I saw that message about prophecy.
Yeah.
My grandmother always said that before her passing, she passed away in 2008, she would tell us, you know, you will live through biblical times and you'll enjoy it, or you'll see the whole thing. You know, it's biblical. We've lived in a time that's unheard of. We've never, as a humanity, never experienced what we're experiencing. We are connected for the very first time all around the world. Information draws like that. You know, we're connected. It's beautiful. We can feel and know information as it's happening sometimes. And it's about learning how to manage information. There's a lot of fake news out there. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that are not even theories, they're hypotheses or assumptions, and sometimes they are truth. You know, the ability to be skeptical but learn to listen. To be skeptical is to hold back your yes and hold back your no and learn to listen. If it survives your scrutiny, then you say yes. If it doesn't, you say no. So we live in a time where information all around the world is live. It's kind of like that image of the old man or master, or old woman master, being able to close their eyes, meditate, and they know everything that's happening in the world. I'm actually thinking about the Airbender, like Avatar, the Airbender.
I love that show.
I love it too. What's her name? The Earth Kingdom, Toth. That she sits in this tree and she's able to see everything happening in the world because the vine is connected to everything in the world and she knows what everything is happening. Toth. Well, we have that. In fact, we're doing this right now. We are part of that algorithm and whatnot. So we're learning how to be social again, and we're seeing and interacting mind to mind. Information is flowing like that for the very first time, because it wasn't that long ago that Gutenberg's invention was changed the world with the print, and all of a sudden knowledge was shared a little bit easier. But what's happening now happened then. A lot of people believe if it's printed, it must be true. Well, if it's posted, it must be true. We live in a time where we're learning how to be able to discern things and not let our prejudices or attached beliefs filter. And some of us do a great job, some of us don't. Sometimes I buy a hook, line, and sinker, and sometimes I don't.
Right.
But it's all this individual journey. And it's a choice to engage or not. Whether that feels like you do or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you engage, what you choose to do. It's a beautiful way to relearn how to be in community. And it's grown beyond the neighborhood. It's grown to be global.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. And you can say, I'm reminded of the story of the Tower of Babel to a certain point. We may speak the same language, but to us, every word means something different. So to be impeccable with the word, every word is an empty symbol whose definition is subject to agreement. There are words that are innocent in your area, but not so innocent somewhere else, and vice versa. There's a word like fanny pack that's innocent in the United States, but not so innocent in the United Kingdom. Same thing in Espanol. Every word is an empty symbol whose definition is subject to agreement. So let me change this agreement just a little bit. Be impeccable with your intent, because it's your intent that gives power to your word. Yeah. And when I say that to my father, he says, that's exactly what I meant. But since you changed the agreement, let me change it one more time. Be impeccable with yourself, because it is you who gives power to your word. Understand that every word means something different to everyone else, but the integrity and clarity of your own word depends upon you.
Perfect. That is wisdom to be contemplated for a while, and it's the core of everything. And so if we all turn inward, then we can move forward as a collective. There's a paradox in that, but it's the truth. So
we're creating a whole new culture, and for those of us who are used to the old culture, we're trying to recreate that, but the new generations, that's why like a lot of young people are not on Facebook. They have their own
right, their own channels. We're old now on Facebook. Well, awesome, Miguel. Thank you so much. And we did not even really get to relationships and your book, which I absolutely love. I read that recently. I know, that's what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking maybe even Heather can come with you next time, and we'll do it together. So
co-creator
together again. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to see you, and thank you for my birthday song.
Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Feliz cumpleaños a ti.
Nice. And if anyone wants to reach you, they should look at
Ruiz.com.
Okay, MiguelRuiz.com, and read all the books. I've linked them in the notes, and we will see you back again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have fun.
Thanks. And thank you to all the listeners and viewers here today. And join me again next week. We will be talking to Dr. Nina Wright, and we're going to talk about empowering yourself through engaging the medical system, both traditional and modern, and keeping your own center when you're going through difficult medical times. So we'll see you next week.